incredible to think about the number of people that have made this organization a success. But more importantly, we're also about the people who use our trails, that seek solace in nature, that seek the refuge on trails to get away from the everyday hustle and bustle of their lives. The demand for outdoor recreation has skyrocketed. And after this challenging year, I could not be more humbled and more proud of being the executive director at the Trail Conference. I've had the amazing opportunity to lead this organization that is working so hard to ensure that there is access to nature for everybody who seeks it. It's such a privilege to know that we are empowering people to fall in love and care for these special places that we've been exploring for over 100 years. Tonight, we get to honor an incredible philanthropist and environmentalist who is dedicated to protecting the integrity of our region's natural areas, Dr. Lucy Rockefeller Wileetsky. Thank you, Lucy, for being a Trail Conference champion for nearly 4 decades and for all of your efforts to connect people with nature. This evening, we're going to be privileged to hear from 2 incredible gentlemen who have also made amazing impacts on the trails in New York. We will hear from the Commissioner of the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, Eric Kulisade, followed by our MC of the evening, Commissioner of the Taconic Region of New York State's Parks and Recreation and Historic Preservation, and longtime Trail Conference friend and advocate, Fred Osborne III. We're going to take a dinner break. I'm sorry, they got me on a timer, so if I don't get off in 4.5 minutes, I can't eat. We're going to take a dinner break, followed by remarks from our honoree. But I want to thank a lot of people that made this evening possible. For starters, I'd like to acknowledge our trail guardians, Judy and Leonard Lauder, our advocacy angels, being Benjamin Moore, Subaru, Konica Minolta, and Provident Bank, our land stewards, the Open Space Institute and Sarah Supermarkets, Thruway Sporting Goods, and Hike the World, and our conservation advocates, Visions Federal Credit Union, Valley Health, and Old Souls. I'd also like to thank all of those who have made donations tonight to make this evening look incredible and taste wonderful. The Hudson Cider North Company, Bergen Community College, Secor Farms, Windus Film, and Brave Makers. Please don't forget to check out our online auction items. You can place your bids tonight. The auction will be closing on November 7th. And also, I would be remiss if I didn't thank and acknowledge Jennifer Zach, our advancement team, and the members of our events committee. I know how hard it was to make this happen. We postponed this event, all of the curveballs, all of the stress, all of the anxiety, and you guys came through and put together an amazing evening. I am so, so proud of the job that you guys have done. So thank you, Jennifer, and your whole team. I would also like to thank the members of our board who are here with us tonight. David Felsenthal, Sue Barbuto, Charlie Goodall, Ned Whitney, Andy Garrison, Beth Ravit, Ken Posner, and John Megerline for all of your support and leadership this past year. We would not have made it through the crazy year and a half that we've been through without your guidance and leadership. So thank you all so much. And it may be a year delayed, but we have a great 100 and almost 101 celebration tonight. I believe October 19th will be our next birthday, so stay tuned. There might be some surprises coming out. And so we're going to have some videos tonight that are going to be incredible. I hope everyone has some Kleenex because they are tear jerkers. So without further ado, I'd like to call up and help me welcome Commissioner Kulisade from New York State Parks.
I hope everyone commented and complimented Josh on his haircut. If you want a good story, ask him how that came about. Welcome everyone to the historic Bear Mountain Inn a special place, right? A hallowed place, I think, certainly in the conservation history of the state. What better place? I think there's no better place on the planet to celebrate the 100th birthday of the Trail Conference, right? Because it was really started here. This place, this inn, this historic inn, has hosted Franklin Roosevelt, Dwight Eisenhower, Harry Truman. Obviously, many of you, I'm sure everyone in this room knows that if the university had taken a different path, this would have been a state prison back in 1908. It was narrowly averted. It was proposed to be the sort of surplus for Sing Sing, and it was conservationist. It was early conservationist estate that fought that and protected this, became a state park, and then it was added to the rest of the region. I'll be talking about Lucy in a second. I think it couldn't be more appropriate for Lucy to be the honoree at the 100th anniversary of this organization. They're both, for us personally, I mean, obviously my view of the world is about state parks, and both the Trail Conference and Lucy have been really extraordinary partners for our state park system. So only a few miles from here, I think that I understand the Trail Conference built its first trail in Harriman State Park a century ago, the Ramapo-Dunderberg Trail. A few years later, they also built the first section of the Appalachian Trail here at Bear Mountain. By 1991, the Trail Conference was maintaining 1,000 miles of trails in the Palisades region of New York and New Jersey. That hit 2,000 miles in 2014. And today's census is 2,145 miles. And I just want to pause for a second, because I don't know any organization I've ever seen that marshals and recruits volunteers better than this organization. It is really unbelievable. They are the most, I think I can say, they certainly marshal more volunteers than any other Friends group in the entire system and do incredible work for us. The fact that we as a state agency with limited resources are able to turn to this organization and feed off the passion of your volunteers is really extraordinary. And you've been an amazing partner and aid and the wind beneath our wings really for all that time. And we are so grateful to you at Parks. 9,000 members, right? 9,000 members are extraordinary asset for us. And so congratulations on 100. We look forward to the next 100. And whenever you're ready to start working up in Buffalo and the Adirondacks, you just let us know. We got other places for you. I also, obviously, Lucy Wileetsky. Hard not to talk about Lucy Wileetsky without getting a little bit choked up. She and I go back 15 years to 2006 when we met each other. I was at the Trust for Public Land, and Lucy was the chair of the Taconic Commission, and she was we were at the celebration of the acquisition of the Awasting Reserve at Minnewaska. Obviously, as you know, an incredible acquisition to that, right? We quickly found that we share a common passion for our state parks. And it's been my honor and privilege, really, to be her wingman for the last 15 years. A year after we met, Lucy became the chair of the State Council of Parks, and then I went into state service under the Carol Ash administration. 2010, Carol and Lucy and I founded the Alliance for New York State Parks. We saw that the period leading up to 2010 had been a great period for state parks because we had acquired a lot of land, but our physical infrastructure was in terrible shape. And Lucy saw an opportunity and a passion that would guide her for the next 15 years around revitalizing our state parks. She is, unlike any other advocate or ally, she lives her commitments just so fully. Many people in the environmental community don't really like to go to Albany. They sort of disdain Albany. They don't like the politics. They don't like it all. Lucy, from the very beginning, saw the pathway to get what she wanted to get done, and she reached out to Governor Cuomo before he was Governor Cuomo. She is talking to Governor Hochul already. She's actually been now through five governors and four commissioners. I'm the fourth. And it's just remarkable in her commitment and what she does to make things get done. And it's because of her that we can look back on our Parks 2020 initiative and over $1 billion in funding that has gone, state funding that's gone in to rebuild our park system. We got a ways to go, as everyone knows. Harriman, we've got a ways to go. There's still more to do, but Lucy, just extraordinary leadership there. Less well known is Lucy also took sort of a moribund organization called the State Council of Parks, which actually is another venerable institution that had become kind of a place for honorifics, but really not much action, appointed by the governor, 77 commissioners across the state. And she saw an opportunity to make those commissioners into advocates, fundraisers, ambassadors, and she has single-handedly and doggedly done that for the past 15 years. And that organization is transformed. There's so many commissioners here in the room. We got Fred and Edgar and David Mortimer, I know I saw. I don't know if there's other Palisades commissioners in the room. And Henry Neal and Art Gellert. Okay. I said Edgar. At any rate, has really turned that group into an active group, and they are now, she's built them. And so I think I would sort of leave with, she's obviously also received many awards, the Governor's Park Award under Governor Pataki, State Council of Parks Commission Chair Award in 2006. That was the position she was appointed to, and now the Centennial honoree for the Trail Conference. Lucy, you have contributed immeasurably to the health of our parks, our environment, and really our personal health, the health of all New Yorkers, because of what you've done to enhance outdoor recreation and the environment, really hand in hand. You all see them as joined. You never see them as conflicting. We're going to miss your leadership at the State Council of Parks. You've been a great mentor for me, a shining example, and someone who's lifted me up as through every valley we've had to cross. And I guess what I would say is, I think the great legacy is you've been laying the groundwork, laying out the acorns, laying the seeds, and I think the whole park system and the entire environment of the state has got a lot of new growth, trees that'll support us and keep us going into the next century. So thank you so much, Lucy Wileetsky. Couldn't be a better honoree.
I want to turn your attention to the Trail Conference itself for its 100th anniversary. Now, I was asked by my son, Hank Osborne, who works for the Trail Conference, full disclosure. He asked me to be the MC, so if anything goes wrong tonight, please blame Hank. One of the things that the MC does when you have an organization that's 100 years old, and it's an important organization, is you have very important people at your gala. This gala has a lot of important people. Often at such things, we call attention to them, and they stand and we applaud. There are so many important people here tonight that would take all night. I want you to think of yourself as important. If you are a commissioner or a CEO or an executive director or a staff member or a board member of something, thank yourself for being in that important role. And let's applaud all of us for each other. So, we are ready to show the video for the look back, following which Jane Daniels will come and speak.
Look back. Imagine a group of passionate people who believe in the power of connecting, with nature standing in front of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They see potential in the natural areas outside of New York City, untamed woodlands and mountains that can offer clean air, exercise, and respite for the growing population in the rapidly developing metropolis. Many of these natural areas themselves are being eyed for development. Time is of the essence to protect the land. Through private donations and public participation, they succeed in preserving many important parcels. With ownership of these lands transferred to the states of New York and New Jersey, they begin partnering with these agencies to scout, design, and construct trail systems that will provide safe, enjoyable access for the public. They enlist more people to build, maintain, and protect these new trails and the precious ecosystems they allow visitors to experience. All this work they do as a volunteer-powered nonprofit, the New York-New Jersey Trail Conference. That scene is as much a retelling of the Trail Conference's origins in the early 1900s as it is a look at the work that the organization is accomplishing today. The same passion to protect natural spaces still lives on today with each of the organization's 2,000+ volunteers. It is a passion that has persisted and evolved to face 100 years of threats and challenges to ensure that the trails and natural areas we share are sustainable and accessible for all to enjoy for generations to come.
I'm Jane Daniels. I'm a longtime volunteer with the Trail Conference. I can claim 42 years of being a volunteer. My story starts in 1968, when my first job was at IBM Research when I secured a position as a reference librarian there. A fellow student at Syracuse University informed me that there were Tuesday night hikes there, and that's where you get to meet the single guys. I had never hiked before, so I heeded her advice and decided I would try it out. Going on Tuesday night hikes meant I learned about hiking and about the New York-New Jersey Trail Conference. The trail leader was Don Durr. At that time, I had no idea how much he would influence my life. I fell in love with hiking and with Walt, a fellow IBMer, who claimed he took out the librarian instead of the books. That's his quote, and I use it a lot. In 1972, I became a stay-at-home mom, and eventually we took both of our daughters on hikes in the area and on vacations. When our younger daughter was 4 years old in 1979, I knew we needed to pay back for the enjoyment that we had gotten out of hiking. So the Trail Walker had an ad about joining Litter Day. I thought, okay, with a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, that's something we can do. And so we signed up. The following year, Don, who by then was president of the Trail Conference, asked us if we would organize Litter Day. Then we were asked to present a workshop on running Litter Day at a 1981 Appalachian Trail Conference meeting in North Carolina. Well, when you have somebody who does something good, you're going to be asked to do something else. Don had appointed Elizabeth Levers to be co-chair of the 1983 conference that was to be held in New Paltz. She was the former board president, founder of Litter Day, and mentor of many Eagle Scout projects. Like Don, she impacted our life. Initially, we were asked to do a program for kids. That sort of figured. We had 2 of them. But Walt thought it was time to use a computer to run registration. And so we became the registrars. Don was not about to pass up another good thing. And so no sooner than we were through that, he comes up with the idea, we need to relocate a tree in Putnam County. You live in Westchester County? That's close by. So under Elizabeth Lever's tutelage, she had selected the corridor in which the AT had to pass. So we had a certain amount of land, not very far. It was wider than that, okay? And again, we were doing something we'd never done before. It was under the guidance of Walter Gregory that we learned how to design and build trails, and we taught others, including the legendary trail builder, Bob Marshall. These volunteers became what we now know as Trail Family. Eventually, I took on more administrative tasks, and Walt used his computer expertise to help the Trail Conference. We continued building trails in Hudson Highland and Fonsnack State Parks, and more recently, we have done it in our hometown. So over the last 42 years, the Trail Conference has benefited from us as a team, and of course, and individually with our different expertises. So why have we continued volunteering that long? I'm sure all of you have that question. It seems a long time for the one institution. First of all, most of the people whose background was quite different in our lives, it was really interesting to get to know them. We were able to do something new, and we developed new skills in the process. We provided opportunities for others to become valued volunteers, and we shared our expertise to help other trail families in the region and other organizations. We're following in Elizabeth's footsteps right now and work with youth. Excuse me. Their projects benefit trails, providing labor and covering the cost. By spending time with them, we are assured that the project will be done correctly. It doesn't bother us that they might not do anything later with trails. Project managing reflections necessitated using the Trail Conference archives. When I opened the 5 file drawers, only 2 were organized, even somewhat, okay? You talk about the Aegean stables, well, they were in the other 3 drawers. To my amazement, I found a picture of Walt, our younger daughter, and me at our first attempt at picking up litter. By the way, that's in reflections in the biographical sidebar that's there. What am I going to do next? Well, remember, I'm a librarian, so I can organize. I've never done archives, so that's a new thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to be building a new branch on the Trail family tree with interested volunteers. Both Walt and I are Torrey Award recipients, and we appreciate those many opportunities to learn and contribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. You are a inspiration with the number of years. I also need to tell you all that Jane received a award, the Raymond Torrey Award in 2011 for a lifetime of volunteerism. So congratulations for that too, Jane. Now we've had our look back. Let's look ahead. Once again, a 2-minute video, and we will follow that with 2 young staff members of the Trail Conference, Peter Dolan, our Trail Program Manager, and Kathleen Bisek, Executive Assistants. When you watch this next video, keep in mind that we're trying to address a lot of the threats that Eric brought up that are faced by trails and parks. And the video is trying to make some innovative solutions and ideas to rise to those challenges. So here's the second video.
Look ahead. The work the Trail Conference does now impacts how future generations will experience the outdoors. As we close our centennial year this October, the symbolic end of an era presents Trail Conference leadership with the opportunity to ask many of the same questions our founders pondered. How do we harness the growing interest in nature? How do we empower more people to explore the outdoors safely? How do we instill a sense of pride and responsibility in protecting its integrity? Of course, there are new questions we must face as well. How do we address barriers between people of color and equitable access to the outdoors? How can our work better address climate change and other threats to the health of the environment? As we turn 101, it feels like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make a real difference in how the public engages with nature. The Trail Conference is taking innovative steps to answer these questions, from a large-scale trail plan that emphasizes community connectivity to leading the response to the emerging invasive spotted lanternfly. As an outdoor lover and Trail Conference volunteer and supporter, you are part of this journey. We are moved by nature and united by trails.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Peter Dolan, and I'm the current Trail Program Manager on our staff. Many of you also know that I come from a Trail Conference family. While my two brothers and I lived large in our own bubble of interests growing up, as children often do, every dinner table conversation between us boys took place with a subdued but consistent parental backdrop of land acquisition and trail easement scheming. Every long car ride, we fell into slumber in the back seats, listening to my parents use names like Urizeri, Gepard, Golden, and Zimmerman. Saving Sterling Forest was such a family mission that my younger brother was actually given the middle name Sterling. And this was done with the understanding that this legal name for their child meant that conservation failure was no longer an option for my parents. So, we children resigned ourselves to packing up a little knapsack of toy dinosaurs and army men every few weekends so that we could dutifully play with them in the background of whichever trail dedication or ribbon cutting required our presence. Despite this intense cultural immersion, as young adults, trails never really consciously registered to us. Even our family hikes were utter failures from a trail lover's perspective, inevitably ending several hundred feet from the trailhead at the first frog-filled pond or insect-ridden log that we could find. As we went through high school and applied to college, any outside observer would have thought that our parents' deep love for trails had tragically skipped a generation. As I grew older, though, the flavors of that childhood marinade started to show themselves. Those failed attempts at hikes with the bugs and salamanders steered me toward a degree in field zoology. I took on full-time guide jobs so I could spend as much time as possible connecting people with nature. And I clearly remember the moment when I was confiding in a coworker that after years of being a teacher and a guide, for just a few months, I felt the need to try something different. Something where I wasn't leading people, but where I was truly hands-on and making something tangible. This coworker then became very quiet and intensely looked me up and down, as if using some kind of x-ray vision for moral fiber and work ethic. And once her scan had gone from head to toe and back up again, she met my eyes and said, "I think you might like trail work." Thus began my 6 months of work as an AmeriCorps trail crew member in Arizona, building trail in Sedona, Flagstaff, and the Sonoran Desert. It was the hardest work of my life, and I fell deeply in love with it. When that term ended, I wondered, was there anywhere I could do that kind of work closer to home? Did trail work even happen in the NYC metro area? This was 2013, the first year of our modern Conservation Corps program. And upon seeing the position posting and the trail conference name, old memories started bubbling up. Wasn't that the place my mom used to work? Even more miraculously, how incredible was it that they were recruiting to build trail in Sterling Forest, the very place my parents worked to protect when I was a child? I've been with the Trail Conference ever since that Conservation Corps term, for nearly 9 years now. That's the beauty of getting youth involved in the work we do. It may take decades to see results from the seeds we plant in the next generation, but the results are well worth the wait. And when my brother Thomas Sterling Dolan is expecting his first child in several weeks, I look very much forward to taking him to his very first Trail Conference event. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kathleen Bisek, and I'm the executive assistant at the Trail Conference. When I look back at the past 10 years of my life, I can say with confidence that I am extremely grateful to be standing here tonight. I had spent the majority of my young adult life in Philadelphia chasing new professional experiences to gain a better understanding of myself and what I was capable of. From careers in neuroscience and marine ecology research, fine dining, private events, and medical administration, I still took any time I had to volunteer monthly at Camden Aquarium scuba diving with sharks. As my resume grew and my skill sets broadened, I felt the opportunities I had could take me anywhere. However, I didn't know yet that such an opportunity as the Conservation Corps was exactly what I needed. In the summer of 2019, I joined the Trail Conference Conservation Corps on the Aquatic Invasive Strike Force team. Living at the Welsh Trail Education Center for over a year and working in nature was exactly the kind of experience I dreamed of. Growing up, my dad instilled hiking as a weekly routine. He would drive us up to Delaware Water Gap every weekend, even in the winter, just to hear the slow creak of the freezing trees, catch a glimpse of Sunfish Pond, and drink hot soup on a camp stove. My dad's enthusiasm and pure interest in the pioneers of our history inspired a longing to not just be a spectator, but to live and breathe what captivated me. It is no surprise that the opportunity to join the Corps was a calling I would not let go of. This experience gave me so much more than a season of adventure. All I could think about was how I am finally surrounded by people that are passionate about the same things I am. This experience reminded me of scuba diving at night. The entire world seems to disappear around me as I follow the beam of light from my flashlight, and my heart is filled with joy and serenity. After a few months of living in the woods, I began to consider the devotion of like-minded individuals like yourselves and realized how much thought and perseverance it takes to care for the things you love. This world I opened myself up to beamed with smiling and determined people working day in and day out to care for the trails I grew up hiking. I am so happy to say that I am now the executive assistant at the Trail Conference. It is because of individuals like yourself that I am inspired to ask questions, challenge myself and others, find solutions, and influence others to do the same. For future generations and all of us here, I encourage any opportunity you get to share your passion for the outdoors with those around you. This positive energy is endless and infinitely reciprocated through nature. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Kathleen. If you ever feel discouraged about the future, just think that these two young people and many others their age are going to be in charge, and they're in charge already. There is a lot of hope for the future, and thank you both. I've lost control of the evening because the commissioner, Eric Kulisade, came to me and asked to call attention to a very important person who is here. So I'm going to do that because he told me. Otherwise, I would make that person one of the many important people who are here. But I do want us all to welcome and thank Senator Elijah Reichlin Melnick, who is right here. And see, Senator, we could have done that for a lot more people, but we are all doing it for you as well as the rest of us. Thank you. Okay, now, please enjoy a local dinner of fresh organic stuff, and also enjoy the fresh organic people sitting to the left and right of you, because they love hiking as much as you do. And when it's time for dessert, we'll come back with the rest of our program. Thank you so much. Lucy is a robotic archaeological study device that is going to Jupiter over a period of 6 years to study the asteroids around Jupiter. But it was named for Lucy Rockefeller Wileetsky, and we are very proud. I've known Lucy a long time. Our families were friends, but I've gotten to know her so much better during the 12 years that I've been a commissioner for the Taconic region. She chairs that commission, and I have learned so much about running meetings, about leadership, about friendship from Lucy Wileetsky. Last week, a friend emailed me a very interesting short treatise about purpose. He said that purpose has 2 levels. On the first level, he said, a universal or spiritual level, every human being has the same purpose, which, he says, is to fully know themselves and then to take that understanding and use it in service to humanity. Now, to me, that's the essence. It's to fully understand who we are, and then through that insight and that understanding to engage in service. Now, you all know that Dr. Wileetsky is a psychiatrist. I've known a lot of psychiatrists in my life. She's one of the few sane psychiatrists that I've ever met. So I suspect she knows herself pretty well. But she has also turned that self-knowledge into service. And that's what I admire so much about her. The second level, thank you. The second level of purpose is to take the passions and talents and activities that give you joy and meaning in life and use them for service. There's a wonderful quote from, of course, a theologian whose name was Howard Thurman, and he said, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it." Because the world needs people who have come alive. So Lucy embodies that to me. I said I'd talk about Lucy's leadership skills. She's a servant leader. And what I've learned from that is that she has earned the respect and admiration of her colleagues more than anybody I know. Earlier this week, the commissioners of the Taconic region, several of whom are here tonight, had a dinner to honor Lucy's because she's retiring as the chair. So we each made a little talk, and I said something about her that was quite personal about her leadership. And it has to do with a characteristic of Lucy Wileetsky. Very simple characteristic. She is kind. When a person is kind, listens to you, and talks to you, that's a leadership quality. And she has that. So I told Lucy that she's a leader to me because of the way she makes me feel. She makes me feel that I have something to add to the conversation, to the cause, to the work that we're doing together. She makes me feel that I'm worthwhile. Now, what better gift can any of us have than to have a person make us feel that we have value? That's what Lucy Wileetsky does. So it is So it's a huge honor to me to pay tribute to a giant of a conservation person, a woman who has taught us about purpose, to follow our passions in service to humanity. She has shown us how to lead with kindness, and she has tonight served as the Centennial awardee to this great New York, New Jersey Trail Conference Gala. So Lucy, come up and let's hear a lot of applause for her.
Thank you so much.
I am giving Lucy a beautiful plaque, which you probably can't see. It's not very big, but it's gorgeous, and it's in 3 dimensions.
Ooh, this is nice.
It has study shoes. It says, Lucy Rockefeller Wileetsky, MD, philanthropist, environmentalist, and trail conference champion. The New York, New Jersey Trail Conference Centennial Gala honoree.
Oh, Fred.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
Get quite close to it.
Okay, can you all hear me? Yes. Oh my gosh, Fred, you make me think, and I am so gifted and uplifted by your words. Thank you so, so much, and I'll be thinking about them. Thank you. And same with Eric. And I also wanted to congratulate the other people who have spoken tonight. I think they did a very good job in inspiring us and informing us, and so I'm grateful to them. And I'm really very thrilled to be the honoree to hear tonight. And in my work as the State Council of Parks chair, I've run across the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference many, many times. And I'm so impressed by how difficult the work is that they're doing. It's so difficult. And it's and they keep at it for so long, and they're so cheerful when you pass by. It's amazing. And I saw through all the different places I've seen them that they really are the ultimate friends group for our state parks, as Eric described, but not only for the state parks, also for county parks and municipal parks and greenways and rail trails and even forest preserves. They're a friends group for all of them. And as we all know, the main point of the Trail Conference is connecting people to the joy of nature, which was so needed for our body, mind, spirit. And my father coined the word body, mind, spirit because there's no and spirit. It's one word, a compound word, and I think that is really what happens when we're out in nature. The way we are uplifted, our entire body is uplifted, and it was so important to us. But the Trail Conference has really been part of important environmental wins, like establishing protected corridors for long-distance trails, the Appalachian Trail, the Long Path, Schwangang Ridge, and the Highlands Trail. And also acquiring land for state forests. And many of these forests I didn't even know about. Huckleberry Ridge, Graham Mountain, Cobbler's Knob, and Rusa Gap. But they're so important because they help connect the whole thing. And now they're involved in a very interesting partnership with the Open Space Institute and the Orange County Land Trust, the Highlands West Connectivity Project, which is going to pull together, I think it's 5 state parks with the Appalachian Trail, Long Path, and others, and 2 county centers so people can get out to these parks. In my 17 years in parks, I think it's one of the maybe most visionary project that's just being started. So I know that and hope a lot of you will be involved in it. So going on with the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference, they have such important work in making people more responsible in the way they enjoy nature and have very excellent maps and guidebooks and signage and digital presence, and their Trail Steward program we saw in Taconic, particularly at our Breakneck Ridge, which is the #1 day hike in America, and so many people came out on the train, and they came in flip-flops with no water and nothing, and then our poor park manager would end up having to rescue them all the time until the stewards came out and started informing the people getting off the train. These are the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference stewards. And it was such a help. So the Trail Conference also helps our natural resources, which is so important, to think about all the land between the trails and how the birds, the bees, the butterflies, and the bugs, and all the wildlife benefit from that land. And also their important work with invasives, with the different invasive strike force, the lower Hudson prism, and the conservation dogs, which I think it's the spotted lanternfly that they can actually smell, which is really incredible. But the Trail Conference is made up of people. What impresses me so much in these numbers is a very small staff, but as someone you have heard, there are 2,500 volunteers across 28 counties, and they contribute over 100,000 hours of labor each year and care for more than 2,000, I think Eric had an updated number of 300 and some miles of trails. It's really incredible, those numbers, the impact. So you think about all the benefits that all of us have gotten from the work they've done for this 100 years. So thank you all. Each person who's here is supporting the Trail Conference. Thank you all for all you have done to connect nature well into the future. And thank you for the Trail Conference for giving me the honor of marking 100 years of your influence and success in the region. Thank you.
There are lots of thank yous. Josh gave a number of them. I especially want to single out Jennifer Zach and her team, the board, the staff, the supporters of the Trail Conference. And those wonderful videos were done as a volunteer contribution by Ryan Windus. We're not going to make a final solicitation because you've already made contributions over the last 100 years and last week in order to be able to come here, so thank you for that. But we are going to thank all the important people that came tonight, and the way we're going to do it is to ask you to turn to the person next to you and say thank you, and then applaud that person. Thank you.